So you had homework from section 2.4 and 2.5. So the question is, when you're trying to find the cardinal number of a set and there are repeated items, yes, you only count those repeated items once because you want to only count the distinct elements. In other words, they have to be different than what you've already counted. Okay, so in section 2.5, starting with number 27, but you have a three-set Venn diagram. And by the way, this is the best way to draw a three-set Venn diagram. Draw the first circle, then the second circle, and then start right here for the third circle and make an arc and then go all the way around. And then draw the box around it. I used to start with the box, and then whenever I would draw the circles, never failed, my circles ended up bigger than the box that I had already drawn. Okay, so just to keep things a little neater. And we don't really need the region Roman numerals that are in the picture, but what we do need is that there are two elements in that region right there. And then they give you this information. The cardinal number of U is 30. The cardinal number of A is 11. The cardinal number of B is 8. The cardinal number of C is 14. The cardinal number of A intersect B equals 3. The cardinal number of A intersect C equals 5. And the cardinal number of B intersect C equals 3. And then you already have the cardinal number of A intersect B intersect C. It's in there already. And so this is A, B, and C. And typically when you have these types of problems where you need to fill in the cardinality of each region, usually the order in how they've given you the information means that you want to work backwards through that information. Because remember, when you're filling in a Venn diagram, you're starting from the innermost region and working your way out. And so we've already got the middle. And so if we look at this last information, B intersects C, well then that is this area here. So B intersects C represents both of these regions. Now you have already accounted for 2 items, and you have a total of 3 items in this area. So this is where we start our series of subtractions. So you have to say, okay, 3 minus 2 equals 1. So I only have 1 element left for that space, because altogether the part where B and C overlap has to add up to 3. So then when you move up to A intersects C, well, A intersects C is both of these regions. It tells you that that is equal to 5. You have already accounted for 2 elements, so therefore when you subtract the 2, you're left with 3, and so you have 3 elements in that space right there. So the intersection has a total of 5 elements. So then A intersects B would be both of these regions, because that's where A and B overlap. You're supposed to have a total of 3. You've already accounted for 2, so take that away and you're left with 1 element in that region. Any questions how I did those 3 areas before I move on to the other ones? Okay, so confusion on this part. You understand when I say B intersects C, that means any area where the circle for B overlaps with the circle for C. So you understand that it's this entire region right here. Okay, so it tells me that the cardinal number is 3. The 2 was already in our picture, so that was given. And if this whole area has to add up to 3, then that means there must be 1 element in this section for it to add up to 3. Okay? So you're just basically going to be subtracting the numbers you already have from the total. So now if I move up to C, the cardinal number of the entire set C should be 14. So the circle for C represents these 4 regions, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So first you have to add up how much you've already accounted for. So we have accounted for 6 elements. So then subtract the 6 from the 14, and how many are left? 8. These are the easy questions of the day. Okay. And so that means there must be 8 elements in that region for the whole circle to add up to 14. So now when we move up to to set B, the cardinal number set B is 8. How many have we already accounted for in set B? 4. So subtract 4 and we have how many? 4 left. So we have 4 in that region. Okay, moving up to A. So far in the circle for A, we've accounted for 6. We're supposed to have a total of 11, so subtract 6. We have 5 left for this region. And then the universal set is supposed to have 30 elements. So what you have to do is add up everything to figure out how much you've accounted for. By the way, there is a shortcut when you do this. If you at least start with A, you know that A has 11, so you don't have to add those 4 numbers together. You know that this is 11 plus 8 is 19, another one is 20, 24. Okay? So we have 24 elements so far accounted for, so subtract, and we have 6 left. So we can put 6 anywhere in the space outside the circles. And so you have just filled in your Venn diagram with all the different regions. So any questions, any other questions on what we did on this problem? Okay, number 47. An anonymous survey of college students was taken to determine behaviors regarding alcohol, cigarettes, and illegal drugs. The results were as follows. 894 drank alcohol, so let me go ahead and write this stuff down. 894 drank alcohol, and I think I'm going to call that A for alcohol. 665 smoked cigarettes, so 665 smoked, and so cigarettes. I'm going to call that C for cigarettes. You could call it S for smoked, however you want to label it. 192 used illegal drugs. 192 illegal drugs. So I'm going to call that D for drugs. 424 drank alcohol regularly and smoked cigarettes. So 424 did A and C. 114 drank alcohol regularly and used illegal drugs. So 114, alcohol and drugs. 119 smoked cigarettes and used illegal drugs. So 119, C and D. 97 engaged in all 3 behaviors, so 97, all 3. And 309 engaged in none of these behaviors. Okay, I want you to notice how I've listed it from top to bottom. And I did that on purpose because now I can work my way backwards up through the material to create my Venn diagram. So how many different sets do I need in my Venn diagram? 3, because I've got alcohol, cigarettes, and drugs. 3 distinct items. So draw your 3 circles first. And then your rectangle around it. So I have the universal set. I have A for alcohol, C for cigarettes, and D for drugs. You can name these A, B, and C if you want. Also, just make sure you pay attention to which one's your A and your B and your C. It's, totally up to you how you want to label your picture. Okay, so at the bottom it says that 309 students engaged in none of these things. So where does that number go? Okay, on the outside of the circles, good. So 309. You're either going to get the information that none of them did it, or you're going to get, like in the other problem, it told you how many total there were, and then you have to subtract to figure out that number. Okay, so then 97 did all three, and so 97 belongs in the very center, because that's what represents all three. So notice that, by the way, the 309 was the exception to starting in the innermost part, because we knew that that was completely out of the circles, so it didn't affect anything. But now starting with 97, so now when we go up to cigarettes and drugs, well, cigarettes and drugs is the same as cigarettes intersecting drugs. Remember the word and means both of that, okay? So that would represent both of these regions. We have already accounted for 97 students, so this is where you subtract. So 119 minus 97 equals how much? 22. Okay, so there must be 22 that belong to that region. So then moving up to alcohol and drugs, 114 did alcohol and drugs, and we've already accounted for 97 of those that do alcohol and drugs. So 114 minus 97 equals? 17. Okay, 17. So 17 go in that region. 424 did alcohol and cigarettes, so that would be both of these regions here. So 424 minus 97, 327? Okay, so now working up to illegal drugs. So 192 students said yes, they did illegal drugs, and that would be this entire circle. So how many have we already accounted for?
136.
Okay, so 136, so 192 minus 136 is 56. So that means we must have 56 in that area there. Okay, for cigarettes, that includes this entire circle. So how many have we accounted for?
446.
Okay, 446. So 665 minus 446?
219.
219. Everybody agree? So 219 goes into that region. And then the last one is alcohol. So this whole circle, how many have been accounted for?
441.
Okay, so 894 minus 441?
453.
453. Okay, so 453. All right, so everybody agree with all the numbers that are in our Venn diagram? So there are some questions that follow in this problem, and if you don't do the Venn diagram, it would be extremely difficult to be able to answer the questions. So it's so important that you guys practice how to do these Venn diagrams, with nothing, because, it's not going to be given to you in the problem in Math Excel. All right, so the first question is, how many students were surveyed? What would you have to do to figure out that answer? Add all of them up. Remember, the shortcut is that circle A equals 894. And then you, add 219, 22, 56, and the 309. 2,814? No, that seems too much. Should be 1,500. Okay, so 1,500 is correct. All right, part B. How many drank alcohol regularly or smoked cigarettes? Okay, so they want to know alcohol or cigarettes. What's cigarettes? Okay. What is the key word in that problem? Or, good. What does or mean? Union, good. So being the union, that means that you want everything inside of alcohol or cigarettes. So everything inside of this circle or this circle. So you're adding the 453, the 327, the 219, the 17, the 97, and the 22. $11.35 is correct. Great job. I'll substitute for Math Excel. Okay, C. How many used illegal drugs only? So drugs only. What's the key word in that problem? Only. So that means that they only used illegal drugs, they did not drink alcohol or smoke cigarettes. 56 is correct. Fantastic. Okay, D. How many drank alcohol regularly and smoked cigarettes but not use illegal drugs? So alcohol and cigarettes but not drugs. Okay, key words. Okay, not and. Okay, so and means what? No. Intersection. So the intersection of alcohol and cigarettes would be these two regions, but it said not drugs, so we don't want anything that's inside the circle for drugs. So that leads us to 327. Excellent. How many drank alcohol regularly or used illegal drugs but did not smoke cigarettes? Okay, so alcohol or drugs but not cigs. Okay, key words. Or and not. Okay, so or means union. So the union of alcohol and drugs would be both of these circles in its entirety. Let me pull out my pencil, okay, because this was a strategy I gave you guys, draw stuff in pen and then use your pencil if you need, to make marks on stuff. So it's all of this, but we do not want anything that's inside cigarettes, so we're going to eliminate those three numbers. So which leaves these three numbers to add up. Say that again? 526. Nice work. Okay, F. How many engaged in exactly 2 of these behaviors? Okay, so let me erase what I did so far. And what's the key word? Exactly 2. Okay, exactly 2. So when you say all the intersections, okay, so A and B would include both of these numbers, and A and C would include both of these numbers, and so on. Jason? Right, so it would be all the intersection points besides the middle. Good, because the middle includes how many behaviors? 3. So this says alcohol and drugs, but not cigarettes. This is alcohol and cigarettes, but not drugs. And this is cigarettes and drugs, but not alcohol. So it's exactly 2 behaviors, those 3 numbers. So what does that add up to? 366. Wonderful. And then G, how many engaged in at least one of these behaviors? Okay, at least one. We talked about that last time, and you said it includes everything inside of A, D, and C, which is correct, because this is exactly one behavior. This is exactly one behavior, and so is this. But it didn't want exactly, it wanted at least one behavior. And remember that at least one means one or more behaviors. So it's all of these numbers except for the number that said none. So what did it add up to? 1191 is correct. Fantastic. And by the way, you can double check your answer by saying, what's 1500 minus 309? Because that was your none, so that should add up to the same number. If they don't, then you messed up somewhere. You either messed up the total, you messed up another number in your Venn, and so on. Okay, so any other questions on that? Has everybody printed the test review that was in Module 2? Okay, at the bottom, I gave you tips on how you can study for the test. And I want to make sure that everybody understands where you can find those items that I recommended. So I'm going to show that to you real quick. Okay, if you go to Math Excel and you go to Homework and Tests, then there's two things that you can use to practice in this area. The first one is if you go to Quizzes and Tests only, then you'll see all the quizzes that I've assigned, but when you go below those quizzes, you have the sample tests and quizzes that the publisher has made. So there's pre-test and a post-test for each chapter. Don't bother with the pre-test unless you just want extra practice, because that only covers the very beginning part of every chapter. But the post-test has randomized questions from the entire chapter. Now, I have already eliminated the sections from the book that we don't cover at all. So there shouldn't be any problems that are being generated from those sections when you do these. But what I would recommend is that you need to practice for the test. A lot of people don't do this. They might do a practice test, but that's not the same as practicing for the test. Okay, so practicing for the test means cut out some time before test day and think about how much time you're going to have to take the test, and then put yourself in that testing situation. Don't have any distractions, don't answer your phone during that time. Only have in front of you what you're allowed to use for the test. For this particular test, you're only allowed to use a calculator and scrap paper. And then take the post-test from Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, one right after the other. And try to keep track of your time. Now, there are less questions combined on each post-test than there's going to be on the actual test. And the test review tells you how many questions are on the actual test. So you can sort of, guesstimate, okay, about how many less questions do I have, so about how much less time should I finish these post-tests than I would the actual test. So if you click on Chapter 1 post-test, this is going to be very similar to what the test is, the setup's going to look like, with the exception of the test is password protected. So when you click on the test, it's going to ask for a password, which, we'll deal with on test day. And then once the password's in, you say, I'm ready to start. The rest of this looks just like a quiz. And I'm not going to go through the questions, but there's 9 questions in here. And then when you're done, submit the test. And then go right back to Homework, Quizzes, and Tests, and scroll down to the Chapter 2 post-test, and take that one. This one has, I think, 18 questions. Okay, take this post-test and hit submit. And then after you're done taking both post-tests, then you can go back and review the questions that you missed. And it even tells you which problem in the book it coincides with. So if you missed that one, it's 2.1.81. Or even if you just click into the post-test, it'll tell you in the corner. I know this is sort of small for you, but it says 2.187 there. Then you know, oh, okay, I missed 3 questions from section 2.1. Maybe I need to go back to 2.1 and just review that for a little bit, okay? Same thing with the chapter 1. Now notice that we've already taken the chapter 1 post-test, and so I don't have those problems that I missed in front of me anymore. You go back to the results button here, and it's going to show you anything that you have attempted. And so you can review it at this time. So I can go back to the chapter 1 post-test and review it from here. Same thing with your quizzes. If you want to go back and review your quizzes before you take another attempt, that's where you want to do that, in the results area. And so you can review anything you missed. Now, it will show you the correct answer on the screen, and if you want to know what you answered, you just have to put your cursor near that answer box. And your answer is what is in the yellow bubble. So review your stuff. Okay, now here's the other place where you can practice for the test. If you go to the chapter 1 videos, and at the very bottom it says chapter 1 chapter test prep videos, it's going to bring up the page from the textbook where the chapter test is located. So in your textbook you have a chapter test at the end of each chapter, and notice on the screen there's a little video camera icon next to the problem. If you take the chapter test in the book, if you have the actual textbook, then you can look in the back of the book and check your answers. If you get any of those wrong, then there is a video explanation of that exact problem that you just did. Okay, so you can get, and it's the same woman who does the videos, if you've checked out any of the videos in the book so far. And so she's going to work out that problem on paper, so if you want to see how it's worked out. And the nice thing is that's the same problem that you did, so then you can sort of see where your mistake was while she explains it. So depending on the speed of your internet is how long it loads up. It usually doesn't take this long, so it's probably just busy today, but so anyway, she will explain those problems. And so on the test review, anybody have it in front of you? You have it right there, right? I didn't specifically state which questions you can do on the chapter test, which probably means that they're all okay. From time to time, I'm specific as to which problems you can skip if you don't have to worry about them. But there'll be questions from section 1.2 in the chapter test, because obviously you can't eliminate what's already in the textbook. But those problems are just about reading graphs and charts, and so it should be stuff that, it's pretty straightforward for you anyway. Like, I bet you that this trash can is from section 1.2, because it's reading a graph in that picture. All right, so those are the things that are available for you to continue to prepare for the test. Last chance to ask any other questions in regards to that. Okay, question is, if I want to take my quiz again, even though I already have a good score, if I don't do well, am I still going to take the highest grade? Yes, that is the case. It will always take the highest grade of all your quizzes. I don't want to penalize you for trying to practice again. Okay, so yes, so I encourage you to take it as many times you can, because the more times you take it, the more familiar you're going to be with the types of problems that you'll see. And so retaking your quiz is a great way to study. One of the quizzes is done already, so you can't go back to retake that. But the other one that's open, take that as many times as you can. And so the post tests will always be available to you. They don't have due dates, and any grade that you see on your post test is not going to be factored into your overall grade. If you notice when I went to results, do you see how homework 1.1 is in black, but everything else that I took in here is in gray? Anything that's in gray means that it's omitted from your overall grade. It's just there so that if you wanted to sort of see how you did on it, but it's not going to count towards your grade on those post tests or anything like that. It also notes when I open up videos, and it gives me a grade for watching the videos, but again, that's not counted. See, omitted by instructor is what it says right there. But yeah, the test review will always tell you that information. And so it also tells you how many questions from each section. So if you're worried about one section and then you go and find out there's only 1 or 2 questions from that, then you don't have to worry too much because it's not going to be weighted as heavily. Okay? Yes?